Shalom, Israel. This is Sinala coming back with you with another lesson. I want to start off by giving all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem, Yahushua, B'Shem, B'Kwakadas. Peace, honor, and blessings to you brothers out there kicking the word and sincerity and truth. Double honor to the elders that rule well with great millstone. This is I'm coming back. This is another reply to these self-proclaimed white people who want to attack the integrity of our faith and attack the mission of the enlightenment of the so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, so-called Native Americans are waking up to the fact that they are the true biblical Israelites, and they want to defame this movement by calling it the Black Identity Extremist movement. This video is to counter that notion with the true extremists of the planet, the true terrorists of the planet, the true evil men of iniquity, which is the Edomite. You saw a self-proclaimed white man, and as you can see on the screen, I'm going to go into this treacherous devil and Antiochus the madman, or Antiochus the Epiphanes, Antiochus the fourth, whatever you want to call him, who spread terror and tyranny on the planet. Specifically, he had a hard-on for destroying our people, the Israelites, during the time of the Greek Empire, after the fall, after the death of Alexander the Greek. You had the line of the Antiochians come up, and he was one of the most treacherous of them all. The one that during the time of Judas the Maccabees riled up Judas. He was riled up in the spirit to fight against this man and against his armies. Now the Antiochus Epiphanes history is convoluted with a lot of different bloodlines. It's convoluted with a lot of different political wars and political movements. Antiochus Epiphanes was actually a prisoner of Rome for a period of time, because the Roman Empire at that time was pretty much taking over the known world, and the Greek Empire was pretty much at that time kind of falling. So you have to follow along with history to know these different things when you're reading, specifically in the second Maccabees. There was different alliances that the Jews had with the Romans at the time. There was different alliances that the Jews had with different nations at that time, and then different pacts and different traders within our nation that had ties to Antiochus and his cohorts, his governors, and things of the like. So we're going to specifically focus on his dealings with the Israelites and how he really just had it out for Jake as far as at the Hellenization of our people. And we're going to go into that word, and it's something that it's just ingrained in Esau to do, is to come in and pollute the land and destroy the culture, and to try to implement his wicked ways and his wicked practices into not only just our people, into the known world. So we just want to read a couple of articles. I'm going to grab a couple of scriptures, and Lord willing, this is edifying to the body and to the elect. So I'm going to start off with this article. This is from myjewishlearning.com. The article is called Antiochus the Madman. It says an in-depth view of the Greco-Syrian emperor in the story of Hanukkah. Right here it reads, it says, in 175 BCE, amid the social political unrest, a new ruler, Antiochus the fourth, ascended to the throne of the Greco-Syrian Syria, as did many rulers. He appended the title Epiphanes, which means God manifest, of course, to his name. So now, one fact about Antiochus at the time, one of the Greek gods that they worship was Zeus, and so what he would do is he would put his likeness on the coins and called himself Zeus. Okay, and then he made the Israelites at that time bring down all of the altars they had and put up Greek altars, and then one of them being Jupiter and Zeus. And so it says he appended the title Epiphanes to his name, but many people refer to him instead as Antiochus Mames, which is the madman. So they kind of had a nickname for him at that time. Immediately upon assuming power, he decided to pursue the conquest of Egypt, which no other Seleucid king had been able to accomplish. The Romans were advancing eastward and expanding their empire. And so at that time, the Romans were kind of moving towards the Spain. They were moving up into the France. They were even moving over into Britain and Scotland. Okay, if it says if Antiochus could conquer and annex Egypt, his kingdom's size and power would greatly increase, and the Romans might be resisted, because at that time the Romans' power and might was far superior to his. It says, but before doing so, he would have to stabilize his own country and consolidate political support by uniting the disparate culture, meaning spread out social and religious elements. Under Alexander the Great, or Alexander the Greek is what we call him, Hellenization had been a movement that still allowed room for cultural variation. Under Antiochus, Hellenization was extended to take a big step further and become the agent of cultural totalitarianism. So we're going to get these two words here, Hellenization and totalitarianism, and delve into what those words mean, and that's going to really bring to life what he was doing to the Israelites. That first word, Hellenization, when you look it up, this is a simple Google search. It says Hellenization is the historical spread of ancient Greek culture, religion, and to a lesser extent language of foreign peoples conquered by Greeks or brought into their sphere of influence, particularly during the Hellenistic period following the campaigns of Alexander the Great. And here, let's just go over to Wikipedia so we can read the full definition. Okay. The campaigns of Alexander the Great in the 4th century BC. The result of Hellenization was the elements of Greek origin combined in various forms and degrees with local elements. These Greek influences spread from the Mediterranean basin as far east as modern-day Pakistan. In modern times, Hellenization was associated with the adoption of a modern Greek culture and the ethnic and cultural homogenization of Greece. And these are all pleasant and nice words for saying basically they came in, whooped ass, and made you follow their customs. And we're going to get that out of the scriptures, okay? We're going to get that out of the scriptures, because it just wasn't something that we just took lightly, just like the so-called Black, Latinos, and Native Americans didn't just become Americans, okay? We had our culture stolen from us, and we were raped, robbed, and murdered, and the Greeks did the same thing to the people, to the Israelites at that time, man. Okay, now coupled with that word totalitarianism, okay, see these long pretty words that they use. It says to become an agent of cultural totalitarianism. So let's look up that word really quickly, what that means. Okay, totalitarianism is a system of government that is centralized and dictatorial and requires complete subservience to the state. Okay, so again, we can go over to the Wikipedia definition. A political concept that defines a mode of government which prohibits opposition parties, restricts individual opposition to the state and its claims, and exercises an extreme high degree of control over public and private life. It is regarded as the most extreme and complete form of authoritarianism Political power in totalitarian states has often involved rule by one leader in an all-encompassing propaganda campaign, which is disseminated through the state-controlled mass media and are often marked by political repression, personality cultism, control over the economy, restriction of speech, mass surveillance. Now, they talk about how we are the black identity extremists, but doesn't that sound familiar to you? It says, which is disseminated through the state-controlled mass media and are often marked by political repression, personality cultism, control over the economy, restriction of speech, mass surveillance, and widespread use of state terrorism. Now, who does that today, man? Who does that today? And these same practices were done back in the time of the Greeks, man. In the time, so these guys want to act like we're on the street corner causing all the problems when you guys have been terrorizing the whole planet with the same means, the same tactics for centuries now, man. So miss me with all that, man. So let's talk more about this guy, Antiochus, man. It says the Jews were clearly targets of Antiochus' strategy of Hellenization. He understood that to ultimately succeed in Egypt, he would need to disrupt the influence of the Jews within his own territories. He decided to tackle the priesthood in Jerusalem by replacing Onias III, the last high priest, Onias' brother Joshua, who was loyal to the Greeks. Joshua became high priest and immediately changed his name to Jason. To a certain extent, Antiochus' plan worked. Jason submitted to the king's will and helped implement the new totalitarian doctrine. Jerusalem became a little version of Antioch, replete with a gymnasium where the Jewish high priest often played, basically the Jewish priest often played Greek sports in the nude. Meanwhile, King Antiochus had access to the temple treasury to fund his military campaign to conquer Egypt. Right? So he was able to coerce Jake. Kanye West would be a perfect example, man. Just all out coon, a buck dancing coon, someone who's totally given over to the mind of his oppressor, man, and so then as you can see, let's just go to the scriptures. Let's read that account really quickly in 2 Maccabees. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 4 verse 7. It says, Onias seeing. Matter of fact, let me start up at I start at 5. No, I'm gonna start at 4. Onias seeing the danger of this contention and that Apollonius, as being the governor of Cilicia and Phoenice, did rage and increase Simon's malice. He went to the king not to be an accuser of his countrymen, but seeking the goodwill, the good of all, both public and private. For he saw that it was impossible that the state should continue quiet, and Simon leave his folly unless the king did look thereunto. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, which his name was changed to a Greek name, his name was Joshua. Right? Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 303 square talents of silver and another revenue 80 talents. Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set up a place of exercise for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of the Jerusalem by the name of Antiochus, which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion. And that's the talking about the Hellenization, man, okay, of our people, meaning forcing our people, okay, to follow these customs, man, which we're going to get more examples of how they crammed it down Jake's throat. Okay, one thing they made Jake do was change their name from Israelite names to Greek names. Okay, Say your name, boy. I'm Kunta Kinte. Your name Toby, boy. Say your name. Kunta Kinte. It's Toby. That's what they did, man. That's what they were doing, man. It's never changed, man. So these white identity extremists, right, were trying to get us to act like them. This all goes all the way back to the time of the Greeks, and we can pull out times there and then in the Babylonian Empire and all these other, and you know, the spirit jumps on me and other brothers do that. We will show these accounts through the scriptures about how Esau has continually done these things throughout human history, man. Okay, this is verse 9. He says, besides this, he promised to assign, or matter of fact, let me jump down. This verse 11, it says, and the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eponymus, who went ambassador to Rome for amnesty and aid, he took away. And putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law, right? So Jake had these different pacts. He was cutting all these different treaties that Jake had set up, and he was forcing Jake to follow customs that were against the law that were established with these other emperors and rulers that were before Antiochus. Okay, he says, but he said, for he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat, now which was the height of the Greekish fashions, and increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest, that the priest had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise after the game of discus, called them forth, not setting by the honors of their fathers, but likening the glory of the Grecians best of all. Okay, so Jake was getting pummeled, and they wilted to the will of Antiochus and his cohorts at that time. Okay. Now when we read down, it says, it says, all these activities fueled the restless anger of the pious Jewish peasants, who became even more enraged with Antiochus when Antiochus allowed Menelaus a Tobad to purchase the position of the high priest. They were incensed that this sacred position, for which Menelaus had outbid Jason, was for sale at all. But to make matters worse, Tobads were not even descendants of Aaron, who Aaron was a Levite. You had to be a Levite to be a high priest, who was the brother of Moses and the traditional ancestor of all high priests. As the condition of his appointment, as a condition of his appointment, Menelaus had promised he would increase the tax revenue. When he failed to do so, he was summoned to appear before the king. While away, Menelaus left his brother Lysimachus as high priest in his stead. Lysimachus proceeded to rob the temple of many of his sacred vessels, and actions that led to riots in the streets, during which the supporters of Jason, even knowing all his faults, battled to the supporters of Menelaus. Okay. Now, I'm gonna skip down here. Matter of fact, I'm just going to read this whole article because it's not much left. Okay, it says, meanwhile, after a decisive battle in 196 to 198 BCE, Antiochus was on the brink of annexing Egypt to Syria. The Roman army, however, was moving victoriously eastward. With its own sights set upon Egypt, Rome warned Antiochus not to expand his kingdom in the direction in that direction. Antiochus was not powerful enough to defy the mighty Roman Empire, and finding his ambitions for conquest thwarted, he would become even more aggressive towards the people he already ruled. While Antiochus was away, Jason managed to retake Jerusalem from Menelaus, a victory based on the rumor that Antiochus was dead. But he was not able to seize control of the government. He was forced to flee. Antiochus, furious with the rebellion, returned to Jerusalem, slaughtered thousands of people, and reinstated Menelaus. Once Antiochus departed and heard that a second rebellion had broken out, he outlawed Judaism, which really is the customs of being an Israelite. No such thing as Judaism. It's Esau's bullshit. Okay. Among the non-forbidden practices were the rite of circumcision, the study of the law, and the keeping of the dietary laws. In the Jewish holy temple, he placed statues of Zeus, the god he believed was manifest in his own royal being, and sacrificed swine on the altar. He stripped the temple of its sacred vessels, including 7-branched golden menorah, and stole the silver and gold coins. Okay, and so it's just going into the tyranny of this Edomite, man, this devil. Just self-proclaimed white people, right? Because what does the Edomites always say? That civilization started with the Greeks. Well, this was the civilization that they condoned: robbery, rape, murder, and destruction of people's cultures, man. White identity extremism, where they're pushing their identity, their culture on to the people of the world in an extreme nature, man. They weren't just out there on the street corners just speaking about what they believed in. They was out killing and destroying people, man, and destroying people's lives and forcing their name and their culture and their way on the people of the known world at the time, man. So a lot of people don't have the culture of the extreme. But guess what? When Yahweh Bashem Yahushua returns, there's going to be a extreme identity on the earth, man. It's going to be the Israelites. And then our way of being is going to be pushed, man. And it's going to be a beautiful way, man. Because, the law, statutes, commandments are going to be uplifted again, man. Righteousness is going to flourish in that time, man. But until that time, we have to deal with the self-proclaimed white man conducting all types of madness and wickedness on the planet Earth. Okay, so I got another article here because I don't want to get too long-winded, but I just want to hammer the point home here of how wicked this guy was, man. Because this is going to heaven, and it's all good stuff, man. You brothers haven't read Second Maccabees. It's a really great read. It goes into all the things that we're talking about here, but reading in this manner kind of brings it to light because they identify the different landmarks and things like that. You have to, that's where the story of Hanukkah comes out of. First Maccabees, the 12th chapter. When you read that, and then it goes into the labors and the conquest of Judas Maccabees, who was a very, very brave Israelite, who stood for the law, statutes, commandments. So it's a great read. Okay. It says this is the Encyclopedia Britannica, the biography of Antiochus IV Epiphanes. It says efforts to Hellenize the kingdom. It says both economically and socially he made efforts to strengthen his kingdom, inhabited in the main by Orientals, non-Greeks of Asia Minor and Persia, by founding and fostering Greek cities, even before Orientals is fucking assholes. Okay, even before he had begun his reign, he had contributed to the building of the temple of Zeus in Athens and to the adornment of the theater. He enlarged Antioch on the Orontes by adding a section to the city named Epiphania after him, where he built an aqueduct, a council hall, a marketplace, and a temple to Jupiter Capitolonus. Babylon, which revered him as Solator or liberator of Asia, was given a Greek colony that was granted freedom of the city. Another Epiphania was founded in Armenia. So he was going around these different places and erecting cities and calling them after himself, man. Name the people who do that, man. Come on, man. This is too easy, man. It's too easy, man. Come on, man. Oh, boy. Okay. Founded Armenia, Ecbatania in Persia, which also named Epiphania and became a Greek city. Many of these cities were granted the right to coin their own municipal currency. The mint of Antioch on the Persian Gulf reserved the trade along the sea route between India and the district of the mouth of the great Mesopotamian rivers. Antiochus' Hellenizing policies brought him into conflict with the prosperous Oriental temple organizations, and particularly with the Jews. With Antiochus III's reign, the Jews had enjoyed extensive autonomy under their high priest, meaning they were able to basically he let them the Antiochus there allowed the Israelites to follow their customs, okay, follow their own customs, right? It says they were divided into two parties: the Orthodox, basically the Orthodox Jews, and the Reform Party that favored Hellenism. For financial reasons, Antiochus supported the Reform Party. Of course, he did. In return for a considerable sum, permitted the high priest Jason to build the gymnasiums in Jerusalem and to introduce Greek mode of educating young people. In 172, for an even bigger tribute, he appointed Menelaus, which is going into the same history. Okay, now when you go back to Maccabees, because you can read down in here, it's going to go into the story of Menelaus, right? Now this is the 4th chapter, right? So I'm going to skip down to 32nd verse where you can read about all this. It says, now Menelaus, supposing that he had gotten a convenient time, stole certain vessels of gold out of the temple and gave some of them to Andronicus, and some he sold to Tyrus and the cities around about, which Ananias knew of a certainty. He reproved him and withdrew himself into a sanctuary in Daphnia that lieth in Antiochia. Okay, now Ananias was the brother of Jason. You got to remember that, and his position was taken away. At that time, Jason was away, and Menelaus was appointed high priest over Jerusalem. And so Ananias was like, man, this dude wicked as all hell, man. Wherefore Menelaus, taking Andronicus apart, prayed him to get Ananias into his hands, who being persuaded thereunto, and coming to Ananias in deceit, gave him his right hand with oaths, and though he were suspected by him, yet persuaded he him to come forth of the sanctuary, forthwith he shut up without regard of justice. Okay, for the which cause not only the Jews but many also other nations took great indignation and were much grieved for this unjust murder of the man. So Ananias was killed. There was an uproar of people. Antiochus had to address it. He removed Menelaus from power. Essentially, when you keep reading, okay, and then it's going to go to the next chapter. Okay, I'm gonna go and right now it's talking about, now when you read in the 5th chapter, it talks about how Antiochus went back into Egypt and how all of these things were happening to the Israelites. But I'm gonna jump to the actual the 6th chapter, because it specifically goes into how they made Jake change their customs in the temples, right? And then of course you had sellouts that didn't care, man. Okay, this is 2nd Maccabees chapter 6. It says, not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers, right? And not to live after the laws of Yahweh. Now, when you read that word compelled there, it ain't talking about that he just talked them into it, man. Alright? These were orders given from the king. Look, Y'all ain't gonna keep following them customs. Now, the Antiochus went around the known world. He was in Persia. He was in parts of Pakistan, Iran, and Iraq. Today, he was in all that area, man. He had control. He had parts of Egypt in his control, man. And he was just erecting up cities called Antiochus. And you had to follow these customs, man, or you got put to death. Now, you can read the accounts of Elder Eleazar. You read the accounts of the 7 brothers, right? Which is actually the next chapter, where Jake was brutally murdered because they didn't want to eat pork. Simple stuff, man. Okay? And when I say brutally murdered, I'm talking about boiled in hot water and got the tongues cut out. And I mean, this all in the scriptures, man. And this is so self-proclaimed white people doing this. And they've been doing it for centuries to our people, man. But when we stand up and just talk, we're black identity extremists, man. But what about all this history of you pushing your agenda on people, man? Pushing your identity on people, man. Huh? Now this is the second verse. And to pollute also the temple of Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus, and that in Garisium of Jupiter, the defender of the strangers, as they did desire that dwell in this place. And you got Jake doing the same thing today, man. You know, Gentile. Come on. That's what they were doing in these back in the day with these with the temples, man. And that's what Jake is building up the modern day Jupiter of the defender of strangers today with these churches, man. Blaspheming in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man. Blaspheming our culture and our heritage, man. So to hell with 2/3 of our people, because this is the same people back today, man. Verse 3. The coming in of the mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy place, and besides that brought in things that were not lawful, man. So they had temple harlots, man. They were doing all types of madness, man. Okay, and right here you're reading the martyrdom of Eleazar the scribe, man. It's crazy. Alright. Verse 5. The altar also was filled with profane things, which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient feasts, ancient fasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. So you couldn't even profess to be a Jew at all. You couldn't keep no Sabbath. You couldn't keep the ancient fast like Day of Atonement. You couldn't keep that, man. Couldn't keep the Passover, right? Because the high holy days are likened unto a Sabbath, man. So you can't keep any of those customs. Knowing that they're not customs, if you don't keep those, you were cut off forever, man. That's what we believe, right? And this cuts a lot of you guys talking about the law, you know, because there were times when you couldn't keep the law because you were forced not to, man. You know, just unto this day, man. And you got the same people doing it to us, man. And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices, and when the fast of the Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. Now let's look that word up. Fast of Bacchus. See if we can find anything on that. Oh man, see, that's Satan. Satan crazy, man. Okay, Satan. Yeah, it's all good. I'm not tripping, Satan. Hopefully that didn't strip anything. Let's see if we good now. Y'all see that? Y'all see what Satan trying to do, man? Trying to mess up my stuff, man. It's all good though. I'm not gonna trip. I'm not gonna trip on that, man. I already got my pages uploaded, so say won't let me upload this while I'm doing this. Maybe I'll, Lord willing, in another lesson, I'll go into the fast of Bacchus, man. Matter of fact, let me go to my phone, see if I can do it that way. Okay. Salaki, brothers. The Feast of Bacchus. Okay. The Bacchanalia was a Roman festival of Bacchus, the Greco-Roman god of wine, freedom, intoxication, and ecstasy. They were based on Greek Dionysus and the Dionysian mysteries, and probably arrived in Rome 200 BC via Greek colonies in southern Italy and from Etruria, the Roman northern neighbor. It's called Bacchanalia, which sounds like Saturnalia, actually. Okay. See if I can find another definition. Feast of Bacchus. Okay. Yeah. Bacchus is the Greek god of wine. Okay. Yeah. So it says another word for the Bacchanalian is Dion. Sen is the honor of the Greek god of wine and crazy parties. So when you go back to the scriptures, man, so they forced Jake to do that. Of course, Jake wasn't into that, but they forced Jake to do that. It says, moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by succession of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. So they made them keep these customs, man, and they made everybody round and about keep these customs. That's why, Christmas is celebrated over here in America, but the whole damn world keeps Christmas. You go to college and you with fucking Hindus and Buddhists and Muslims, but they giving Christmas gifts out. Like what? Why y'all giving these gifts out? Because they make all the heathen round about keep their customs, man. They're identity extremists, man. They're the identity extremists. Okay. And so it says, verse 9, and whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen the present misery, for there were 2 women brought who had circumcised their children, whom when they had openly lied round about the city, the babies handing at their breasts, cast them down headlong from the wall. So they saw that the babies were circumcised, took them and cast them headlong from the wall, killed them. And others that had run together into caves nearby to keep the Sabbath day secretly, being discovered by Philip, were all burnt together, because they had made a consistency to help themselves for the honor of the most sacred day. Now I beseech those that read this book that they be not discouraged for these calamities, but that they judge those punishments not to be for destruction, but for the chastening of our nation. Right? And that's what we're saying, that the so-called white man's been sent to destroy our people, man. He's been sent as an ambassador of destruction. Okay. And he's not here to get along with people, man. He's not here to have a coming together party with you guys, man. He's here to destroy. He's here to do wickedness throughout the entire earth, man. And he's gonna. That's what he's gonna do, man. That's what he's gonna do. Okay. Why is this not working now? This is ridiculous. Slovakia, man. I'm in this hotel trying to do this sit down, man. And Esau's just playing games. won't let me connect to the internet. So it is what it is, man. I'm gonna end it out on this one scripture since it won't let me pull it up. Actually, the elder Yashawan will put it on the chat. It was a great scripture. This is Habakkuk 1:12. It says, "Art thou not from the everlasting, O Lord, my God, my Holy One? We shall not die, O Lord. Thou hast ordained them for judgment. And Almighty God, thou hast established them for correction," man. And that's what Esau has been put on the earth to do, is he's sent to sit in judgment and death, calamity and destruction out on the earth, man. You know? And so we're here to combat that energy spiritually, man. We're here to combat it and tear down the stronghold that Esau has on the planet. Okay, and with that, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Rakakadash. Double honors to the elders that rule well. Peace and blessings to you brothers out there preaching the word, sincerity, and truth. Shalom.